The South Pole, located at the very center of the continent of Antarctica, is one of the most mysterious and extreme environments on Earth. Unlike most places in the world, the South Pole is not surrounded by an ocean, but rests on solid land buried beneath an ice sheet that is over 2 kilometers thick. Antarctica, the continent that houses the South Pole, is often called the coldest, driest, highest, and windiest continent on Earth. Temperatures in the winter can plummet below minus 60 degrees Celsius, and even during summer they rarely rise above minus 20 degrees Celsius. This makes Antarctica much colder than the North Pole. Because it is so far from human civilization, the South Pole has almost no permanent human population. The only people who live there temporarily are scientists and researchers working at research stations such as the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station, which operates year-round. Another unique feature of the South Pole is its high elevation. It sits at about 2,800 meters above sea level, which contributes to its brutally cold temperatures. The air is dry and thin, making it feel even colder. Precipitation is extremely rare, so Antarctica is technically a desert, despite being covered in ice. Life in the South Pole region is very limited. Unlike the Arctic, there are no large land animals at the South Pole. You won't find polar bears or wolves here. Instead, the wildlife that exists is mostly along the coast of Antarctica, far from the actual South Pole. Penguins, especially the emperor penguin, are the iconic creatures of this region. They survive by hunting fish and krill in the surrounding Southern Ocean. Seals and various seabirds also live near the coast, but the actual South Pole is too harsh for most forms of life. Another fascinating fact about the South Pole is how different the day and night cycle is. Because of the tilt of the Earth, the South Pole experiences 6 months of continuous daylight in the summer and 6 months of darkness in the winter. Imagine the sun never setting for half the year and then not rising at all for the other half. This unusual cycle creates unique challenges for both wildlife and the scientists who spend months at a time in research stations. The history of human exploration at the South Pole is filled with tales of bravery and hardship. The first successful expedition to reach the South Pole was led by the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen in December 1911. Just a month later, a British team led by Robert Falcon Scott also arrived, but tragically, they did not survive the return journey. These stories highlight how dangerous and unforgiving this environment can be. Today, modern technology has made life at the South Pole easier for scientists, but it still remains one of the most inhospitable places for humans. The South Pole also plays a critical role in our planet's climate system. The massive ice sheets of Antarctica reflect sunlight, helping to regulate global temperatures. Scientists study ice cores taken from Antarctica to learn about Earth's climate history, stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. In addition, melting ice from Antarctica has the potential to raise sea levels worldwide, which makes this region crucial for understanding global climate change. All in all, the South Pole is a land of extremes, colder, higher, and more isolated than almost any other place on Earth. Its icy landscapes, its penguins, and its endless polar nights and days make it one of the most fascinating parts of our planet. While it may not have permanent residents, it holds secrets about Earth's past, present, and future that scientists are only just beginning to uncover. The North Pole, in contrast, is a completely different world. Instead of lying on a solid continent, the North Pole is located in the middle of the Arctic Ocean. There is no land beneath it, only a shifting, floating sheet of sea ice that expands in winter and shrinks in summer. This makes the North Pole more unstable and harder to explore than the South Pole. While Antarctica is a continent surrounded by ocean, the Arctic is an ocean surrounded by continents. This simple difference changes almost everything. The climate of the North Pole is harsh, but not as extreme as the South Pole. In the winter, temperatures average around minus 40 degrees Celsius, while in the summer, they rise close to 0 degrees. Because the Arctic sits at sea level and is influenced by the surrounding oceans, it does not reach the bone-chilling cold of Antarctica. Still, the environment is dangerous, with freezing winds, drifting ice, and months of darkness followed by months of daylight. One of the most iconic differences between the North and South Poles is their wildlife. While the South Pole is home to penguins, the North Pole is home to polar bears. These giant predators are perfectly adapted to life on sea ice, hunting seals, and traveling long distances across frozen landscapes. Other animals, such as Arctic foxes, walruses, narwhals, and various species of seals, also thrive in the Arctic region. The ocean beneath the ice supports rich marine life, including fish and plankton, which form the foundation of the Arctic food chain. Unlike Antarctica, the Arctic is not uninhabited by humans. Indigenous peoples, such as the Inuit, Sami, and Chukchi, have lived in the Arctic regions for thousands of years. They developed unique cultures and survival strategies to adapt to the extreme cold, relying on hunting, fishing, and knowledge passed down through generations. Today, their presence reminds us that humans can adapt even to the harshest environments. The history of exploration at the North Pole is also filled with daring attempts and challenges. Many expeditions tried to reach it during the 19th and early 20th centuries, often facing extreme difficulties with the moving ice. Unlike the South Pole, which can be marked by a single point on land, the North Pole is constantly shifting due to drifting ice, making it even harder to define precisely. The first confirmed expedition to reach the North Pole is still debated, but in 1926, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen, who had also been the first to reach the South Pole, flew over the North Pole in an airship, marking a new era of exploration. The North Pole also plays an important role in global climate. The Arctic sea ice acts as Earth's air conditioner, reflecting sunlight and helping regulate temperatures. But in recent decades, scientists have observed that Arctic ice is shrinking rapidly due to climate change. This loss of ice not only threatens wildlife like polar bears, but also impacts global weather patterns. Melting ice opens new shipping routes and access to natural resources, creating both opportunities and conflicts among nations bordering the Arctic. Another unique feature of the North Pole is its day and night cycle. Just like the South Pole, the Arctic experiences months of continuous daylight in summer and months of total darkness in winter. For people and animals living in this environment, this cycle is both a challenge and an adaptation. In the modern era, the North Pole remains a symbol of adventure and mystery. While few people will ever visit it, its significance in global science, climate, and culture is undeniable. From the majestic polar bear roaming the ice to the Inuit traditions that endure in the far north, the Arctic is a reminder of the beauty and fragility of our planet. The North Pole may not be as cold as the South, but its floating ice, rich wildlife, and human history make it equally fascinating and vital for the Earth's future.